Friend of yours? More like an ex-girlfriend. Guy doesn't know when to quit. Welcome to the club. You get used to it.
Resident Evil is a franchise that has transitioned greatly from what it once was, and that's actually okay. I have fond memories of fear causing hesitance and turning corners in the first few installments, but have had just as enjoyable moments in the action-fueled 4th and 5th titles. Yet with the sudden inflow of stellar third-person action games, Capcom's looking to go big or go home by bringing together the heavy hitters of the franchise for one explosive 6th entry. But is it enough to give Resident Evil the impact it once possessed?
You two just focus on getting the hell out of there. The virus has already spread 3 miles past the campus perimeter and it's not slowing down. You need to hurry.
A bioterrorist group known as Neo Umbrella has unleashed the C-Virus over various parts of the world, and it's up to Leon, Chris, Sherry, Scooby, and Shaggy to call the threat and find out who's responsible. The plot's woven between 4 campaigns, ranging from Leon and Helena's work to stave off infection in a city, or Sherry's mission to utilize Jake's blood to call the virus. Your initial setting transitions with every chapter, and campaigns intersect as investigation leads to common locales. Most of the intended surprises of the plot are figured out pretty quick, but piecing together the story through all perspectives is enjoyable. You still fall into the pattern of fighting a big thing that refuses to die, but the buddy-buddy partnerships with newcomers provide some genuine scenes to make up for it. The biggest plot hole? How can Leon and Helena just walk away from crashes so easily? Seriously, after walking away from a bus crash, a helicopter crash, train crash, and a 747 crash with only dirty clothes, you gotta wonder if they're superheroes.
Always this awesome?
There's a certain cinematic quality about recent Resident Evil games, and it holds up well for this title. Animation and voice work for cinematic scenes enrich the chapters with fantastic delivery despite overly cheesy dialogue. Sure, there are excessive amounts of bullet time sequences or diving away from explosions, but they still manage to captivate you, and felt like rewards for progression through the chapters. In-game, there are segments where Resident Evil shines, and others where it feels a bit dated. The amount of detail is consistent with Resident Evil 5, and not really improving beyond that, with its fair share of muddy textures and stale vehicle explosions. The most annoying facet is how dark the game is. Even with the brightness turned up, the lighting makes it difficult to see much of anything, especially in Leon's campaign. You open the game as Leon, but soon will choose from one of 3 available campaigns, unlocking a 4th after all are completed. Though similar in gameplay, there's enough distinction to set them apart from each other. Leon's campaign felt like a throwback to Resident Evil 2, with zombie hordes in an attempt to bring scares back to the franchise. Chris's campaign felt like Gears of War, populated with squads of AI Marines and utilizing the cover system for firefights. Jake's campaign centers more on escape and stealth, opting to run rather than fight in most scenarios. Chapters have some segments that are a blast, and others that leave you scratching your head, like playing Angel Crossbow Whack-A-Mole. Cannot make this up. No matter your choice, there are multiple occasions where the game will link up with another player for segments of 4-player co-op. Though this circumstance is sure to diminish over time, it occurred fairly often, and was incredibly fun when it did.
Sherry Birkin, the United States.
Yeah, good for you, but that's not really the time.
Resident Evil 6 focuses on big action and fast gunplay, and has altered the gameplay to accommodate the change in pace. Character mobility has sped up with the allowance to move and shoot, dive roll, and have a stamina bar for melee combat. Enemies are a little less responsive to limb shots in this installment, but the new quick shot helped in staggering a nearby foe and opening them up for a follow-up melee. Enemy variety is much more diverse, and their aggressive nature requires a lot of moving and shooting. Some spawn shields on their arms, some spit projectiles, and others are just lumbering bullet sponges, but their design and tactics are a welcome addition. The speedy flow is unfortunately slowed with a multitude of quick-time events. These often outstay their welcome, slowing the pacing considerably, and some require such fast reaction time, you may settle for playing with an always flawless and invincible AI partner to suffer through your deaths.
Tell me, we just following orders, or was it personal? Both.
The inventory has also been reworked to switch weapons and mix herbs on the fly. I miss playing inventory Tetris from the older games, but the new system is intended to meld better with a faster action. Works well for the most part, but once you gain a multitude of weaponry, it can be tough to find the one you want quickly. Weapon upgrades have also been ditched in favor of a perk loadout akin to Call of Duty. Skill points are collected in each level that allow you to purchase a trait such as improved damage against a particular enemy or increased melee damage. They end up being quite expensive, and oftentimes their impact just goes unnoticed.
We'll make it! Just keep going! Anyway, I don't hate you!
Oh, great! That helps!
A few additional modes are tucked away in the bonus content section of the game. Agent Hunt puts you behind the role of a lumbering enemy in someone else's campaign. You spawn as a weakling with the potential to evolve like most of the enemies typically do, and become a walking instrument of hindrance for the human players. It oftentimes felt unfair to the good guys with short respawn timers, but it can be highly entertaining to assume the roles of the enemies you hated so much. Mercenaries makes its return, losing and gaining nothing new. It's still a two-man point-driven survival mode that encourages teamwork, timing, and coordination to strive for an S rank and unlock awesome costumes like Pirate Leon. It's still quite fun, but the potential for 2v2 or 4-player co-op merc mode feels very lost, and having only 3 maps doesn't give much life to it.
Looks like things just went from bad to worse.
Being a fan of Resident Evil, this ranked as the least enjoyable title of the franchise, but the longer I played, the easier it became to overlook the nuances.
You're starting to grow me a little bit.
There are some chapters that will frustrate, some that will impress, and some that leave you scratching your head. But if you can look past the clunky cover system, shoddy camera, and multitude of ill-placed QuickTime events, the game can offer some pleasant moments. The campaigns are fairly lengthy, and scattered collectibles along with the choice between 2 different characters give potential for replay. It was a decent attempt at shaping a faster action game for Resident Evil fans, but unfortunately it ends up a bit out of tune.